So right, a very good morning to everybody. So this is today. Today my topic is about manage and response to crisis situations using data science. So, how many of you have actually used coronatracker.com? Let's have a show of hand. Okay, not too bad. Yeah. For those of you who did not raise your hand, how do you get to know about this event then? Emails or social media? Okay. Alright, Hafiz is here. So coronatracker.com is actually, you can log on to it now. Actually, it's a platform, it's an application, it's a web application for us to keep track of the development of the news. And in particular, we want to keep track of the statistics and the development of the entire story when coronavirus hit us. Okay, and I will do the first session, 10 to 11 o'clock. I'll be explaining to you. Now, most of you must have heard of data science, right? If not, you won't be here. You're here with ADAX, so you know about data science. But many people, what they did not realize or they did not notice is that how can we actually use data science in something that has actual impact or actual value. Now, for most of you, if you're business users, then how does it actually generate business value to your organization or to your company? So, main thing number one is how I'll show you the process of how do we actually turn an idea into a data product. So mine will be more on the story part, and then later on 11 to 12 my teammate Umi, she will tell you more about how we actually handle the different aspects outside of the product itself. The second thing is, of course, something that we are very proud of it is in 36 hours. It's like a humble bragging, yeah. So you might be wondering, are you sure you can do it in 36 hours? But later in the afternoon, Hafiz will show you how, and Marcus, right? How exactly is this possible? Okay, we have proven it. And last but not least, and how you can do it too. Okay, I think this is the most important part for most of us here today. So if any, this is a formal sessions, but just do it interactively. So any questions, feel free to ask me. And first of all, the story part. So what happened is that on the last 30th, okay, 30th of how do I say that? Chinese New Year Eve, yeah, Chinese New Year Eve. So we were having dinner, and then people start to share this this particular graph with me, this website. So this is the coronavirus tracking map created by JHU, Johns Hopkins University. I believe that most of you, if you have heard of Corona Tracker, before that you should have heard of this. So a couple of my friends shared this with me, say, hey, Doctor, I'll take a look at this. It looks like pretty interesting. So I look at it, yeah, it is nicely done. It's quite informative to a certain extent. This screenshot was taken a few days ago when I was preparing the slides. But as time goes, last time when they first started, they had very limited information, so everybody improves along the line. But what happened is that when we look at this, right, we found a couple of things. Like, yeah, I'm not quite happy with the way that data is tracked. I'm not quite happy with we cannot zoom in, drill down of the information. Then I started to post questions, right? I posted this on my LinkedIn. I said, I'm thinking of doing a project that helps public to keep track of the Wuhan coronavirus using data science. So back then, WHO haven't said anything, right? We still call it Wuhan virus. And let me know if you want to be part of it, apply your skills to a real world project and make impacts. As usual, you have to say something like that to get people interested. So you got quite a number of likes, responses, and people do comment about it. So and then this is some of the response that I got. Yeah, so most of my LinkedIn profile, my connections, they are data scientists, data practitioners, data analysts, data engineers, and quite a number of them were from my past times. They're from Australia, US, when I was actively involved in the startup scene. So they're quite happy with the idea. They're quite supportive. So I thought, okay, so sort of like validated. And then later on, I saw this guy, nothing to do. No. This guy was like, I said, hey, he was doing Tableau. I said, Tableau best data visualization tools, right? The Chinese New Year Eve, or first day of Chinese New Year, 25th. And then this guy also shared the same thing. This is the older version of the map that I just showed you. So I was like, okay, fine. This guy should be the right person that I talk to. So this guy is he's the main guy behind the coronavirus. I'm the main face behind coronavirus. So every time when people ask something about it, I'll be the one that's responding, answering to it. But most of the work is done by him and the rest of the folks behind us. So he's Hafiz. Hafiz. He's at the back. Okay. So I thought, okay, this guy is interested and he's thinking of what I'm thinking. So my first point is Facebook and LinkedIn are good places to find talents. Yeah. So Hafiz is the top, if not one of the top data engineers and lead data scientists in Malaysia. I'll leave it to him to explain more about his experience and his background to you later on. But one thing that the way when Irving and I, basically MDEC, ADEX and Corona Tracker, we're discussing about this event, right? We design it in such a way that first of all, it's Monday morning. We know most of you are busy and stuff, but because they want to fit my schedule, so we choose it on a Monday morning. And then we wanted the C levels, basically the management, the less involved in tech part of the people, right, to come first. You have a basic understanding of this. Later on, I hope everybody and your tech guys will stay during the fire chat session so that you can understand how we actually bounce ideas and how we actually work together. Umi will give you the better idea about the numbers. By today, I think we have 1,003 volunteers around the world, right? So we have volunteers from different countries like Germany, Australia, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam. Yeah, so they're all in the team. So she'll explain to you in more details how we actually coordinate everybody. But having said that, Facebook and LinkedIn are good places to find good talents. So I'm happy to have them behind me. So some of the things that I wish that can be better with the GHU map, right? So as a startup guy, as a data scientist, so we always have a lot of complaints. We're always not happy with how things are done. First one is information presented is too high level. So if you look at the maps, right, a map is just a map. There are a lot of, I wouldn't call them copycats, yeah, but there are a lot of clones that's similar to the GHU maps. So what they do is, oh yeah, by the way, you can take photos of the slides, that's okay, but I will share a link for you to download it later. So if you want to take photo, please make sure that I'm inside, okay? Yeah, please make sure I'm inside. And don't forget to tag ADEX. Yeah. So information presented is too high level, meaning that you can only look at the map. A map is a map. It just tells you how many incidents it is in a particular country, how many it is in a particular region, etc. So we are not happy with that. Second thing is insufficient data for analysis. So data scientist is like a monster that's always hungry for more data. Not just myself, not just Hafiz, but all the data scientists in the world. If you look at Facebook, Google, Amazon, they always try their best to mine more data from your behaviors, from your activities, from your track records. So the second thing is insufficient data for analysis. Now don't think of it in the context of Corona Tracker, but think of it from the context of your business as well, right? So most of the time when you look at the reports, or industry reports, you look at the research analysis stuff, you will realize that a lot of information presented to you is also too high level. For example, let's say if you are a retail, right, you want to look at the sales of a particular t-shirt, you want to look at the sales of a particular shoes, you realize that they will tell you like, Johor people, worst of all, they will tell you everything about Malaysia. Malaysian, 37% of the people like to buy this, 43% of people like to buy this, and that's about it. And then what they do, they present it to you in a form of pie chart, for example. Insufficient data for analysis. So you want to drill down further, for example, something that's anonymous, right? Because of GDPR and PDPA, everything have to be anonymized. So for example, their age, their gender, their income levels, their education levels. So these are the things that you wish you have access to, but you don't have. And the last but not least is unable to keep track of the story development. So this is something that make our product, that makes Corona Tracker different from majority of the others coronavirus tracking tools out there. By today, those that I have seen, right, I think we have seen at least 10, 20 different versions of them already. But one thing that is still unique to us is they are unable to track the story development. For example, yesterday and the day before, I think the hotspots is Italy and South Korea, right? But you go to other websites, you can see the numbers. You probably can't even see the trends, like how they grow in the past weeks, 7 and 8 days. So this is the 3 main issues that we identified and the 3 main problems that we want to solve. So what to do when you are not happy with something? Yeah, go ahead and change it. Yeah? Don't complain, just go ahead and change it. So what they do is we tried to build our first version of the product within 36 hours, and a lot of times, right, when you as a company or as an organization, you wanted to implement a product, you think about a lot of things. You think about whether our customers will be happy or not, whether our customers will be using it or not. What if it's not nice? Does it damage our brand? I have the same doubts also. Yeah, because when we started, right, a lot of people are actually skeptical about this. Say, ayo, another corona tracker, another coronavirus tracking tools. Actually, back then we are the second one. Okay, so that's a bit of backstory. So you need to be very clear about what you want to do, and then sometimes just go ahead and do it. So this is the first version that we have developed. So we call it minimum viable product. Most of you should be quite familiar with this concept. So minimum viable product and prototyping is a little bit different. Most of the time when you build a POC project, right, in business projects, a lot of data science projects, they fail because they use POC. So for example, you want to set up a very simple dashboard or data lake for your company, right? You basically just set up a data lake. So if you don't want to pay, you don't want to invest a little bit of money, those consultants will just take their existing projects and then they set up a POC for you to play around. Right? So if you are in, let's say, property, right, and then they get something very similar to property but maybe from other countries, it's very easy to find open source data on the internet. So what we want to do here is we want to build something that's really viable, that you are confident enough, at least you're not shy to tell people that, hey, you can use this too. So this is our very first version. You can still see this in most of the newspaper. So what we do is, number one, we set up, I think I have this, yeah. So we put more information at detail level. You're able to choose your country of origin, and then you are able to keep track of historical data. So because we have assistant professor Fairoza on our team, right? So she suggested us to keep track of the historical data, which is something that's another game changer. At first, when I started the project, right, I was like, okay, fine. A few years ago, I started another similar thing called My Banjir to keep track of the flood. And this time around, when we started this project, right, I was like, similar lah. My idea back then, I didn't think that far when I first started. So she said, why don't we keep track of the historical data and we get it from multiple different sources so that we can compare. And that is what helped us to be more confident later on towards the middle stage of the project, right? We're able to speak to other people, like we have full set of the data. Full set not to say like is 100% reliable, right? But we are doing our best to keep track of the complete picture, so you can run different type of analysis. You can also use it to detect, some countries they are honest or not. I'm not saying anybody is lying, but you can use it to see whether they are honest or not. But as usual, China is changing their methods of tracking every now and then, right? But this is a typical Chinese movement, so don't worry about that. And the last one is news article for following the story development. Okay, so we have all the news articles. Now allow me to go a little bit technical for you to know is that the first one is structured data. So we collect all the numbers, right? All the numbers, statistics from different websites. The challenging part is if you're working with your tech guys, right? Don't think that collecting numbers is easy. Other countries, I'm not referring to any particular countries. Other countries, most of their MOH, they publish data in table form. Okay, that is so we are happy when we get data in table form. You are not so happy when you get the data in CSV form. Okay, that's still not too bad. Some countries they publish in PDF form. PDF form is still okay. We still have tools that can go in and parse the PDF. If you get assigned to a task that's crawl data from the PDF, that means you're a bit unlucky lah. But the worst one is you get the data in the image form. Okay, they always release data in the infographics form. Very nice to see, but very hard to extract data from that. That one you must have done a lot of bad things in your life. So if you don't know which one I'm referring to, you can go to our website. So that's the hardest to script. Okay. So in a sense, right, is the hardest part to do is to get the data from those countries that only publish data in image form. And that's why eventually we call this project Managing and Responding to Crisis Situations a framework, because our long-term game, right, the end game of Corona Tracker is actually to hand this over to an organization, like ultimately we want to hand it to WHO so that they have the political will and power to push through every country to submit their data when something like this happens, so that we can keep track of that. Yeah, that's about it. But when we launched Corona Tracker, right, a lot of funny things happens. A lot of funny things happen. The first day when I launched it, that Monday, right, Kobe Bryant passed away. So I supposed to launch it early in the morning, 10 o'clock. Then I have to wait because the whole Facebook is filled of Kobe Bryant passed away. So today I'm doing another public event on Corona Tracker, right? You know what happened to my Facebook today, right? Most of you know. Yeah. We try to get media to come. I think they're like we were talking about it earlier on. They're either sleeping or they're preparing to go to the palace this afternoon. Yeah. So that's some side story, but yeah. Anyway, so that's the latest version of Corona Tracker that you see today. So we have done a lot of major improvement. So if I were to share a little bit of my tips from a business point of view is, people will always advise you to listen to your customers for feedback. But my advice to you is don't listen to all of them. Okay, you actually need to observe how they use it. We are lucky to have Marcus here. So Marcus is the UI UX designer. So he's very experienced in looking at user feedback, and we take the requirements. So you must have somebody like him that dare to say no to you. We basically throw everything to him. Every day we have users tell us what's the most common one. Okay, the most common one, they come and complain to us, say your number is not correct. Okay, like they saw a news or their parents send them a WhatsApp, say, hey, Malaysia got 2 new cases already. Then they come and say, hey, my father said got 2 new cases already. How come your website is not updated? Those are the things that we get, that sort of feedback every day. And that's towards the media stage, because when Singapore, Malaysia's numbers are updated more frequently. When it happens to China, right, because the number is too huge, so they don't really have an idea. But in Singapore, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, because every time when it increase by 1 or 2, especially for Malaysia, when the time we jump from 17 to 19, suddenly we cross 22. So it's very obvious that your website is updated or not. So we did have some countermeasures using data science and some human intelligence to do that. So he'll explain to you later. Another common feedback that I receive is a lot of Chinese from China, right? They come and ask us to admit that Hong Kong and Taiwan is part of China. Every day we receive those sort of things. This time I say, hey, I'm not very comfortable saying that China and Hong Kong and Taiwan are separated. So, and that's why you have a PR officer here. Okay, so those are the things that a bit of challenges when we started. But from a business point of view, I think your main concern is about technical part. So I'll explain to you how we overcome it. But we are very lucky that we got sponsored by AWS. They are the only company that is willing to sponsor us by now, until now. So great thank you to them. And these are some of the key statistics that we have. Yeah? By today, by yesterday or the day before, we have served 1.3 million pages already. Okay, and we have 530,000 sessions and 160,000, close to 160,000 unique users. Yeah, so it's a very good numbers, and our bounce rate throughout the entire life cycle, right? Our bounce rate is very low, so it's about 55%. Yeah. If you look at the later stage, right, let's say after this part, after the cutting point, basically our bounce rate is less than 50%, around 48. Yeah. If you're familiar with analytics, then you know what I'm saying. But if you're not, right, basically bounce rate is the moment that they enter your website and then the exit straight away. Meaning that if your bounce rate is very high, they came to the wrong place. They enter but they're not interested. But our users on average, looking at the statistics and news articles, they spend about 2 minutes there. Yeah, so it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy on that. Any questions so far? No, And let's discuss about the workflow a little bit. So in terms of the workflow, we follow this framework called Awesome Framework. You can take a picture of this if you want to. This one basically we address the 5-step process when we started any data science project. If you are familiar with data science and data mining, right, this is slightly different from the CRISP DM, because CRISP DM is mainly used for data mining. When we have less resources, we have less data, and we have less computing power. But nowadays, because we have sufficient data, we have more than enough computing power, so we are able to use a shorter, a much linear process like Awesome Framework to help us to drive the entire data science project. So back then we used to spend a lot of time in defining the problems, identify the resources, but nowadays we don't. Especially at Corona Tracker, right? Our approach is we SAPU first. Whatever data source that we can get, we will assign somebody to help us to script that and then keep the data in our data lake. If you are not familiar with the concept of data lake, is the next generation of data warehousing. Data warehousing is essential because last time your storage is very expensive and we have very limited access to cloud services. So if you're a CEO, right, if you're owner of the company, you will know that every time when your tech guy come and knock on your door, it's nothing good. Always ask for money. Boss, I want to buy new server. Boss, I want to have more memories. Boss, I want to buy new hard disk for no reason because every time you see them, they ask for money. But nowadays, because of the cloud computing and all the resources, and we have access to a lot more different types of data. So you have access to text numbers, you have access to text data. So we use a lot of natural language processing in terms of our research, in terms of our news detection. What we are trying to do here is we're not trying to battle fake news. A lot of people say you guys are trying to battle fake news, right? That's actually not wrong. We're doing the opposite. You are at the stage, or you are at the era of information overload, you are at the stage of data explosion, whatever you call it, right? You have too much data, but what you really need, or what your friends, your parents need is a source of reliable data, right? You just need good quality information, and that's what we are trying to do here. So first of all, you obtain your data from relevant sources, so you can go to different data sources that you choose. By now we have many different languages already. We have Chinese, we have English, we have of course Malay news, we have Vietnamese, also we have Indonesian news and Japanese news also. Yeah, we were kind of lucky in the sense that we get in touch with Japanese news a lot earlier before the things get worse. But we did not manage to predict South Korea is the next one. Yeah. So obtaining data from the relevant sources. And then second thing is actually you need to clean data to a readable format. So in terms of your business data, whether it's a Corona Tracker data, it doesn't matter. 60-70% of the time we spend in a data science project, right, we will spend on obtaining data and cleaning data. So if you're working in a large organization, obtaining data is very hard because you don't know where is the data reside and you don't know who are the data owners. So a lot of data you know that is from this particular HR systems, is from this particular finance systems, but you don't know who are the owners. So same thing when we try to obtain data from various sources, we need to identify where are the data sources. Do they provide an API? Do they provide a text file? Do they provide a CSV file? Sometimes they do have other ways for you to get the data also. Second part is to clean the data to a machine readable format. So every time when you gather the data, you have to clean it and make sure that it's in a streamlined and generalized format so that everybody can use it. And just now I mentioned about media stage, right? We want to publish paper, we want to do it in a way that the researcher can come in and use Corona Tracker platform to share data and access those data for their analysis. So that's something that we are doing right now. And the third one is to explore data to find significant patterns and trends. You want to be able to find out what are the things that you should pay attention to. And sometimes in an epidemic or in an outbreak like Corona Trackers, right, you can easily miss something because everybody was so focused on the uptrend, right? You can see that at the very beginning, people were saying, oh, we are very happy because the situation in China has been under control. The numbers is going down. But based on our research and based on our statistics, our models, you know that's not possible. So exploratory study or EDA is a very good way for you to find patterns and trends that you should pay attention to. And this is the part that everybody is talking about. Whenever you talk about AI, machine learning, is actually building a model. So you have a lot of models that are existing models that you can use. You don't really have to spend a lot of money in this part. These two parts actually takes up about 20% of our time. The hardest part to us, or to me at least, is to explain the models and results. So we were lucky to have UI UX designers in our team because they help us to make the website more user friendly. Now if you look at my very first version, right, this one is okay, it serves its purpose, it makes me happy. But you compare that one with this version, this is a lot better, a lot easier to use. Now, one of the key trick here, right, is that we realize that 80% of our users actually comes from mobile, and this website or this web application is mobile responsive. So when you actually scale it down to a mobile application, right, this thing itself can become a page so that you can easily take a screenshot and share with your friends. Yeah, so that's one of the tactics that we apply. Okay, so the team. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to work with a strong team from all around the world. Hafiz is here with us today. Wei Sing is from Singapore. Shen, I think he's Malaysian. Marcus is here today. Umi is here with us. Dominic is from Philippines, and then Faroza is from Japan. She's a Malaysian, but she's teaching in Japan. Yeah. Okay. Something that you are most interested, right, is actually how much did we spend in Corona Tracker, and if you were to build something similar, right? For example, Corona Tracker can be easily turned into a fun project for you. We did that. I did that before to use similar framework to track the development of flood. For you, you can easily turn that to track the price structure of your competitors. For example, somebody has used a similar things to track the price of 100 plus during Chinese New Year. The technique that we use, the framework, the background that we do, everything is about the same. I would say 70%, 80% is the same, right? The data scientists here will agree to me. The only thing that's different is that how big is the problem that you're trying to solve. You're trying to solve the problem of buying the cheapest 100 plus from Tesco, Aeon or Giant, or you're trying to help people to understand more about the development of an epidemic. So the cost that we spend here, right, maybe Hafiz will have a better idea. But from what I remember, what we are paying at the beginning is 2 AWS small instances. We started with Nano, we're cheapskate, not cheap, but cheapskate. We try everything that's as cheap as possible. So I approached Google, AWS, and Microsoft. So they have Azure, they have what is the other one? GCP, right? Google Cloud Platform. So Google and Microsoft ignore me. They're still in their Chinese New Year holiday. So AWS is the one that come back to me and say, okay, we can give you some credits. So we use that for the small instances. 2 small instances is about $38. Now, the reason why we use 2 is because one is for the back-end crawling. The other one is for serving the API. Yeah, so that's how lean you can get started if you want to do something similar. Now, in your company, you can reduce the number of instances to 1 only. You can reduce it to 1 just to serve the API and also crawl the data if you want to. But the reason why is we have a lot of people working on different time zones, so we better split it into 2. So the API guys will just work on the API, and then the crawler guy will just work on the crawlers, because sometimes the crawler will stop, and then sometimes the crawler will have leakage and bring down the whole machine. Yeah, so that, I think at the first 2 weeks, Hafiz basically didn't sleep, because he always has to address to all the user feedback, hey, the site is down. But also that's the time we realize that, well, we are really making an impact because people are really using it. So how to test whether your website is popular? Very easy. Take your website down for 5 minutes, right? You see how many messages they receive. If you receive nothing, that means yeah. But that's also the aha moment. We're quite happy with that. And the second thing is Netlify. Netlify is a front end tools that we use it just to serve our front end. So this is a bit of the latest technology that we are using. So the Gem stack. So we're using mainly JavaScript API and markup just to serve the front end. So that's why if you log into coronatracker.com, right, it works. It's very, very fast because we have a lot of front end that's pre-rendered. We only pull the data and display only. RDS database costs us about 10 per month with the amount of data that we are storing right now. So the grand total is within $50 per month. Given the current exchange rate, we are looking at about $200. Yeah, 200 ringgit per month. So one thing that I would like to highlight is that we no longer call it hardware cost, because technically there's no hardware involved. Everything runs on cloud. Yeah. So as a company, as an organization, as a senior management, right, your concern should not be something like, oh, do I have to write off my servers every 3 years? Do I have to do a tab refresh? You don't have to worry about that part. So that's one of the beauty about using cloud computing.
Just now you mentioned that Amazon sponsored, so this one is after the sponsor.
So they basically sponsor us the credits. So they give us like 10,000 US dollar to spend. So later we'll use that for other deep learning, machine learning purposes lah. Yeah. Good question. Okay. But don't get too happy yet, because the software that we use, right, is is an industry standard. Python is free and open source, and also Node.js. Yeah. So if you are wondering, or if you're thinking of where to send your stuff for your next training, or what sort of talent you should hire, right? You should hire somebody who knows Python if they are working on scraping data, data engineering stuff, and also if they are working on any data analysis. Most of them, they need to know Python. If they don't know Python, they need to know R, but R is relatively less powerful and less ideal, especially when you're handling large amount of data. If we're just talking about analysis itself, right, mathematicians, statisticians, and also academics, researchers, they use R with no problem. But when you talk about production, like you want to take a website like Corona Tracker, right, Python is more ideal. And the second one is JavaScript. If you're talking about a career perspective, right, you still can make money, you still can find a job easily if you learn PHP, or maybe if you learn Java, then you can write mobile applications. But if you are talking about building something for your companies, right, or choosing the stack for your companies for the next 5 to 10 years, these two they are the safest bets lah, in terms of technology. And total software cost, yeah, zero. You didn't see it wrongly, because every software that we use is open source, so we don't face any issues like licensing or tools or anything like that. Of course, as a management, right, your main concern is of course of the support. So when we are using open source software like this, the support, the guidance comes from the community. So every time if they face any problems, they can go to Google, they can go to Stack Overflow to get answers. And most of the time, those answers are more responsive and more reliable compared to the actual tech support or those people that you email to. Yeah, but in addition to that, right, sometimes we do have Amazon business package for the tech support. So if anything happens, we can just do a live chat with Amazon, and they will help us to check what is the problem in terms of hardware, in terms of like, say you make sure that your code is running, but then you cannot ping your servers, for example, or you cannot SSH into a server, you cannot gain remote access, right? You can just drop them a chat, they will respond to you within 5-10 minutes. Yeah, that thing costs us about, I think, $29 per month. Yeah. So what is the most expensive cost for you? Okay, your development cost. So this project is done on a voluntary basis, of course. Every one of us is volunteering for this project. But this is the current market of Malaysia. I'm taking the slightly low range. So a front-end developer will easily cost you 5,000. I'm sure Marcus is a lot more higher than that. And then back-end engineer, Hafiz Junior is about, Mini Hafiz is about 5,000. Data engineer is about 5,000, and then lead data scientist about, you're looking at one here, we draw about 8,000. Yeah. So the main difference so my background is more on data mining, and I did a lot of software development in my past. So I work with Microsoft, different companies. But the main thing is that later on, when you decide whether you want to become a lead data scientist or become a chief data scientist, is you want to more towards a management role, or you still want to be actively involved in the development role. But the cost that you are looking at is about 25,000 per month. Okay. So the highest cost comes from your development. Okay, so this project will cost us at least 100,000 if we were to outsource it to any company, to any agency to help us to build it. But you feel like it's very expensive, right? But you look at the amount of money that you are paying to all those agencies, consulting companies, you can put another zero at the back. Right? Yeah. Okay, so if you wait and see before you apply data analytics, right, you are actually wasting the opportunity cost. So this will actually cost you a lot more. Depending on your industry, every single industry is slowly moving towards data science, data analytics. Okay, so some of the few lessons learned, I think we have a couple of minutes so I can do some quick Q&A. Mark Zuckerberg always tell you, right, move fast and break things. But with our situation, we take another approach. So we prefer move fast but don't break things. Yeah. Up to you, right? You can choose to believe Mark Zuckerberg. Come on, okay. I cannot say anything that's different from him, but a little bit different is move fast but don't break things. The main reason being, number one, we have thousand over people in our team, so I cannot, as my position, I cannot just simply go and tell them, say, hey, let's try this or let's try that. We're not a funded company or whatever. So every decision that we made as a core team, right, has to make sure that to the best of our ability and our knowledge is going to bring impact to people, and it doesn't break things. And I was telling you earlier, right, every time our website down for 1-2 minutes like that, people will start to message us. Some message the page, some message me directly, some talk in the public Telegram groups. So the main thing is, number one, move fast but don't break things. Yeah. Okay, as a business also, right, you ideally you don't want to break things. And Mark Zuckerberg hardly say that nowadays also. Yeah, he know, he tastes it when he broke things. He knows something broken, he will be in trouble. And second thing is gather the right people before the requirement. So I think this one a bit counterintuitive. Many people would think that, oh, we have to make sure that we get the requirements correct. We have to talk to the stakeholders. We have to have a lot of meetings just to get everything study done, right? But the main thing is actually to gather the right people before you gather the requirements. And last but not least, start small, think big, and then scale fast. At first, when I started, right, I start small and I think very small. Yeah, I never thought of putting it to WHO or handing it over to any other organizations. Basically, I just want to make sure that it helps as many people as we can. But if you look at that, right, one single instance, one small Amazon instance with Netlify, we are able to serve almost 1.5 million page views in a month time. Yeah, today is it's about a month from now, from when we started. We started at the first day of Chinese New Year, I still remember. So start small, think big, and then scale fast. Scale fast, I think I don't have to explain too much. Basically, you just need to make sure that you always listen to the users' feedback and implement those things that you think that's going to help them. Okay, so yeah, Q&A time. You can just scan the QR code or visit the website to download my slides.
Just curious, like for this Corona tracker, like which is more important, the accuracy of the data or the speed of the updating of data that your users?
Yeah. So your question is, to us, which one is more important, right? The speed of the data or the accuracy of the data. So we have to make a decision at the very beginning. There are some websites, they choose to go for the speed, meaning that every time when somebody release some news, right, they'll update the data. But for us, we go for accuracy.
Why?
We have to be responsible. We have to answer to the public, right? When later on, when somebody realizes that your data is not accurate, although it's fast, but it's no use.
May I know where, like, how do you determine, like, in terms of, like, the accurate data, like, do you just pick from WHO or?
So we have, if you go to Corona Tracker, right, later Umi will share, right? Umi will tell you which one are the sources that we get. Yeah, so we get from multiple reliable sources that we trusted. Okay, I shouldn't keep using the word reliable, but trusted sources that we and also the community have been telling us, like, okay, first of all, the few trusted sources that everybody has agreed, right, is number one, GHU data, which they get it from WHO, and then the second one is CDC, right? Then the third one is the MOH of different countries. These are the numbers that these are the places that we get our numbers from. Now, whenever we decide which numbers to use, right, the heuristic rule is very simple. We just pick the highest, meaning that if this particular source say that there are 23 cases and the other source say that it's only 20 cases, as long as the number is number one, the number is going up, then we just take the one that's higher lah. We can trust that, and we give citation to the sources, so we won't have any credibility issue lah. Yeah. Then the other sources that we need to think about it is those third-party sources, like for example Tencent, and then DXY. I'm not sure many of you seen the DXY or not. DXY was one of the earliest one that released the data also. Then later on got all sort of different websites come out lah. So what flu tracker, Wuhan.com, WuhanVirus.com. Yeah. Those that cannot buy coronatracker.com, they appears. But to answer that question, right, we go for reliability first. Yeah, accuracy lah. Because in this case, if we publish the wrong number, it will cause a lot of public distress. Like I think at one stage we put those people from the cruise to Japan, right? Yeah, that's also the time where people start to be panicked. So, how come Japan suddenly the number goes up so high? Yeah, then that's one of the incident. Then we put it as others lah.
So when you compare like JHU's website and yours, right? So when first time when you looked at JHU, like what was like the main trigger that you thought like, you know what, this is not as useful as in like when you try to build Corona Tracker?
Yeah.
Who was like your target market specifically? Like who are you trying to build it for?
Okay. Now this is something that as a veteran or a seasoned startup guy, right? This is something that I would like to share lah, yeah. Every time when you build some product, especially a small product like this, that's the scale fast part comes in also. You build something small, you think big, right? You can easily scale fast, ideally. So you have to think about the main user is actually yourself. You have to be the one that is willing to use that. And my head, right, my brain is wired that way because my PhD, when I did my machine learning PhD, right, my very first thing that comes to my mind is always unstructured data because I do a lot of my research is on text mining. So whenever I see a website or anything that gives me structured data, then I will always look at ways to find unstructured data to help me to enrich the structured data that we have. Actually, this is also the main directions that the current data science is moving towards. Most of the things, right? Okay, 2080 rule. Only 20% of the information in the world has been digitalized, and that takes up 80% of your SQL databases. Okay, you get what I mean, right? So 80% of the databases out there is SQL, structured data, and that's what everybody is doing. Right? You go and speak to any data analyst, business analyst, all the BI guys, right? They're doing all the 80% of their job, visualizing your dashboard. So if you want to make some innovations or what would be the next stage of data science, it's all about the unstructured data that you suddenly have access to, but you didn't know how to use it. Give you an example, right? 20 years ago, when you go out, you have breakfast with your friend. Will you take a photo of your breakfast? You won't want. You take a camera, you roll out the film, take a photo of your nasi lemak, and then you will take it to develop. You take the Photoshop guy also. What is this, man? Right? But today everybody is so used to it. You go out, even you are drinking teh tarik alone, you try to filter it, put a nice position, okay. Make sure no hands around. Okay, take a photo of teh tarik, upload to Facebook for no reason. I say, Monday Blue hashtag. YOLO, always single, something like that. Okay, if you remember that, then that is how KFC got its success a few days ago, right? It's definitely not worth your money to queue for 20 minutes, not 20 minutes, to queue for 2 hours or 1 hour. I'm from JB, so we don't queue that much. We've got people queue also, we think they're Singaporeans. Yeah. And then you go and complain, the chicken's so small. Come on, you think today only you know KFC chicken is small, is it? But why does people do that? Why did people do that? Have you ever thought about it? It's a fear of missing out. FOMO effect, right? My friend went and queue, I must go and queue for no reason. It's all about economics and psychology behind all those behaviors, right? But from a data science point of view, right, as soon as I see data, I smell data, I was like, okay, these are perfect opportunities for you to use unstructured data to help to describe whatever structured data that you have access to. So same thing, right? Last time people don't write that much, but you look at the amount of text that's being generated, and you look at the amount of videos, images that you are taking. Yeah. So those are the real big data that's behind this. Yeah.
With the kind of volume of data out there,
Mm.
what kind of technology do you use to actually compile and consolidate all this data into a single, probably a single database or something?
Okay, the actual technical details I will leave it to Hafiz to explain later on in the after lunch. Okay, hopefully you still have your mind is still fresh. But I can give you some high level explanation about that. We built something called data lake. So data lake is different from data warehouse. Is that data warehouse you need to have a structured database. Basically, if you're rich, you go for the Oracle solutions. But if not, you build a MySQL or Microsoft SQL version of data warehouse, right? Data lake is just like a lake, so you dump everything inside. So when we build that, we dump all our data there. We dump our news articles. We dump all the CSV file that we have collected. Then later on, whoever works on the thing, for example, when we collected all the JSU data, at first we got CSV. Sometimes we understand the CSV, sometimes we don't understand. And JHU, right? They are very, I don't know which are the right words to describe, but they keep on changing the way that they describe their data also, right? They're probably Chinese researchers, but they keep changing their metadata and keep changing their schema. So we have to adapt to it. But if you are familiar with SQL, you cannot keep changing the table design all the time. So what do? You put it into a data lake, and then you write your scripts to pull the data that you want. Then you put it into the SQL database. So to answer your question, I think data lake is the word that the technology that you're looking for. Yeah. So that will make you more agile in the sense. So the reason why we are able to do that today compared to 10, 20 years ago, right? Because now the storage is very cheap. So you can easily just same thing like taking pictures of a chicken or whatever, right? Is that you don't have to worry about running out of storage. Yeah. Even like 5 years ago when you have a 16 gig phone, right? You take a picture, upload to Facebook, and then you probably will delete. But nowadays you don't do that. Yeah. So for business data it's the same thing. You can afford to have those things in your data lake. And then later on, if you realize that let's say your data you only need 3 months data, right? So we keep it because we want to do research. If not, you can always archive it and keep it somewhere else for cheaper storage option. Yeah, it wouldn't cost you too much.
One of the main selling points of like data analytics is to use predictive
Correct.
analytics, right?
Yeah.
Like say for example in Africa, there's a guy from Johns Hopkins who's building a health information system, and he's actually selling all this data to insurance, people. So for your corona tracker, your predictive analytics element, where is it heading towards?
Yeah. Okay.
Now it's more historical, it seems.
So there are two things, right? Whenever you collect data, you have to fit it into a model. And the challenge behind Corona Tracker or to predict an epidemic outbreak is the problem comes from you cannot just take from the historical data and say yesterday got 3, the day before got 1, so we have 200% increase, and then the next day you got 5 or 6 or 200%, 3, 6, 9, for example, right? You cannot do that because it's a non-linear problem. It's not a linear problem. So by looking at a single dimension of say past 2 days or 3 days, it's not like say for example stock forecasting. You cannot do a moving average or do a sliding window of 7 days and say, oh, I predict that they will hit. So you need multiple dimension, and then again it goes back to the question that we were answering earlier. How many more different types of data you can bring in to help you to enrich your model? So for example, in our case, I would love to get all the say pharmacies, for example, together. So as soon as you detect that their stock level for masks is dropping towards a certain level, then you know that is a signal, right? All these weak signals actually helps to trigger to know that there's a disease coming in, or suddenly a lot of people in this area they got flu, they got influenza, for example, right? So those are the things that is weak signals, but it's very good early signals and triggers. So at this stage, right, it's not really how to say that? It's not really practical for us to accurately predict how many people will get say coronavirus next day or at a particular place. Like I was telling you all, we managed to predict that Japan should be the next place, but a lot of black swan things like Italy, out of nowhere suddenly it becomes that. A lot of things that is beyond humans' knowledge, because until today we still don't know what is a virus. Virus is neither a microbiology, is neither a bacteria. That is a lot smaller, but it has the characteristic of living things, living organism. That's one thing. But to me, I think when it comes to things like big data, all those stuff, right? The early detection of disease like this, and I always share with the team is that what I believe is information travels faster than virus. Yeah. So if we are able to make sure that the information travels as fast as it can, like for example, if somebody in Italy gets detected, they contracted a coronavirus, the next second somebody in Malaysia, in the whole world, they'll know. So they know what other precautions to take. This is something that causes the outbreak of coronavirus actually. So if China government is they can share this information as early as it can, right? Or that piece of information is spread around the whole world as early as it gets, then I think it wouldn't be as bad as the situation today. Yeah. So if I were to think about the contribution, rather than predicting ahead, I would rather do the early disease detection. So for individuals also the same thing, right? Sometimes you think that, oh, this is just small flu, small cough, it doesn't matter, or you suddenly feel dizzy, but that could be a lot of other sickness that's telling you that you are sick, your heart got problems, but people just ignoring those symptoms and signals. Yeah. And same thing goes to your business, right? For example, let's don't talk about the negative thing, right? Let's talk about something that's happier, right? You are running a company, you did not do any marketing campaign, you did not do any advertisement, and then suddenly your sales increased by 50%. That's a signal. That's a signal that something is happening. But a lot of bosses, they'll say, oh, happy, yeah, your revenue increased, your sales increased by 50%. But what does that mean? And then if you have a lot of different indicators like this, whether in your dashboard or in your data lake, and that will help you to find out what is happening. Yeah, that helps a lot in the businesses as well.
How do you differentiate between a trusted source for your news? You get all the news, but how you differentiate between trusted and untrusted?
So when we pick our trusted, the one later Umi will explain in details. When we pick the trusted one, right, we start from the Reuters, BBC, those that the internationally renowned media. But even that, we still got attacked by one of the Japanese guys saying that, how you know BBC is correct? BBC might be biased. Look at how BBC colonized us in the past. That sort of things will happen. But that's to the best of our knowledge. But there are other sources that the right answer from my point of view is we will exclude those that we know that is definitely not trusted.
So
Yeah.
people talking, chatting, that one is totally out.
Yeah, totally out. Especially those that spread among the WhatsApp group, that's totally out. Yeah, I can only accept good morning pictures, that's all. Yeah. Apart from that, whatever there is, a lot of people, if you go to our Telegram, right, every minute, every single minute, every 10 minutes, we have people share something that looks really like the real news, and then when you click inside, if you just look at the news, you'll be convinced that, wow, really, it is that bad. But you look at the URL, you look at the age of the URL, and then you look at their sources, and there's no team information, there's no their physical address, don't know where is it. Those are the ones that we usually exclude. Yeah. That's how some of the heuristic rules that we do. Yeah. But if you talk about data science level or NLP level, you can always run a content check, right, to look at the quality, and then you can, for example, most of the trusted sources, they also have the reporter's name, etc. Yeah. So thank you very much for listening to my talk, especially for those who have contributed to Corona Tracker project, especially my division heads, the 7 people that you've seen. More importantly, my team members from Lead, right, who have supported me throughout the journey, because their boss here, they have been busy with Corona Tracker since the first day of Chinese New Year until today. So the whole Lead team is actually with me here. They're sitting around you guys, so you can easily identify them and ask them about. They helped me a lot throughout the project also. So yeah, this is my email, social media, so feel free to get connected. And then over to Umi.